Good morning, everyone, and welcome to worship at First Unitarian Church. We are located here in Portland, Oregon, and our mission is to nurture the individual spirit and together to work toward the beloved community. I'm so glad you're with us virtually this morning. As always, there will be a virtual social hour after the service. You'll see a QR code on your screen at the end of the service that will take you there. And I hope you are checking out ways to be involved in the church, even in these virtual times. If you haven't already signed up for our weekly e-news that comes out on Thursdays, I hope you will do so. That's a great way to learn more about what's happening at the church and ways to connect with others and to grow spiritually. You can sign up through the church website, or you can call the church office to do that. And if you've been thinking about becoming an official member of the church but haven't taken that step, I encourage you to do so. You probably know that the church is in the process of calling a new senior minister, and there will be a vote to call a candidate chosen by the Ministerial Search Committee later this spring. You'll need to be a voting member of the church as of April 3rd in order to be part of that vote. So if you've been considering membership and have been putting it off, maybe now is the time. Once again, welcome everyone to worship. Carter will light the chalice here on our chancel this morning. If you have a candle or a chalice at home, I invite you to light it now. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Taken. Dance with me to the colors of the dusk. And when you have awoken from all the dreams broken, come on, dance with me. Dance with me. Dance with me.
Melissa Jeter. We gather today and light our chalice to illuminate our way toward love. Inside the womb of this waiting time, we are bathed in sounds, floating in love, growing out of our comfort zone. We experience love, pain, sorrow, joy. There is a numinous quickening as we await a new world yet unborn. Come now and let us worship together. Now will you please join in singing together our hymn, Soon the Day Will Arrive.
The day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. O tire, kama tovie, bashana, bashana, haba. O tire, kama tovie, bashana, bashana, haba. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
Our responsive reading this morning is Community Means Strength by Starhawk. Please join me. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, some place where we can be free. And will you join me now in singing our doxology, Spirit of Life?
the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
This church year, we focus our giving on climate justice. We support programs that bring innovative solutions and use an anti-racist, intersectional lens to support and build power for communities at the front lines of the climate crisis. For February, we share our plate with the Black Food Sovereignty Coalition. BFSC serves as a collaboration hub to confront the systemic barriers to food, place, and economic opportunities. Its mission is to ignite Black and Brown communities to participate as owners and movement leaders within food systems, placemaking, and economic development. If you're joining us this morning on live stream and wish to give your offering, you can click the Donate Now button on Boxcast, or you can use the QR code that will appear shortly on the screen. Thank you for your generosity that sustains the ministry of this congregation and of our partners in the larger community. We make space in our service each week for the concerns of our community life together. If you have a concern you'd like mentioned here in the service, you can send that to parishconcerns@firstunitarianportland.org. And if you have a prayer request you would like to be held through this coming week by our ministers and lay ministers, please send that to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Member Lucille Beck died recently, and we hold her family this morning. Lucille was a part of our church for a number of years, especially involved with our alliance. She was one of the people who led the effort to establish Tryon Creek State Park back in the early 70s, a place that is now a refuge for many people. We celebrate Lucille's legacy this morning. Will you join me now in prayer? Spirit of life and of love, God of many names and of no name, be with us and with all the intentions we bring as we make our way in our complicated, our troubled, our amazing, our mysterious world. There is much to hold, Spirit, and sometimes that holding can make us weary. There is much to learn, too, about the way of things, how there is so much that would separate us from others, how there is so much that we have in common if we could find our way to a place of meeting, how the sins of greed and racism and destruction of our earth imperil our very existence, how our hopes for peace and nonviolence can seem so very, very difficult to make real. Help us to be engaged, Spirit. Help us to see ourselves as part of this magnificent creation. Help us to see our own responsibility in finding that way forward. Help us to see the possibility in what we might do, and especially in what we might do together. Bless us, Spirit, in all the days of our lives. Amen. Let's take a few moments now to be together in silence. Our reading today is by Adrienne Marie Brown, entitled Meditation Time Travel to 2050 for Movement Generation. These are Brown's words of invitation. Movement Generation has been coalescing in our virtual dream tank, and like many of you, we are leaning into and processing the range of emotions stirred by the pandemic crisis. We also recognize this is a time of possibility to act collectively to make the ecological and economic shifts we need. In that spirit, we are leading with our hearts to help reframe this COVID-19 crisis. I am Adrienne. I use she, they pronouns, femme-presenting, brown-skinned human with big fluffy hair tipped in rose gold. I'm wearing a bamboo onesie in black and white with lapis eyes, dragon's kiss lips, and orange glasses. Please join me to time travel to our panelists. Drop into your breath into your body and feel yourself briefly in the present moment. Now drag your energy back and fling yourself forward, futureward, through space and time. Feel the chaos of leaping over years and decades with only glimpses of place and people. And now let yourself land. Hello, welcome to 2050. It is your birthday in 2050, so happy birthday to you. How old are you? Are you in the flesh? Are you ancestor? Awaken and fill into that body and feel what you know to be true right now, today. Feel the ease of a good life still unfolding. What is this future you are grateful for? What is your birthday suit? Naked, spectacular tech, organic and comfortable? Where do you live? On Earth? On a space station? On another plane? If you're on Earth, are you in the U.S.? Is there a U.S.? What is beautiful about the place you call home? How do you know you feel home? What is the relationship between inside and outside? What does the world look like outside your window or a vid screen? Green? Outer space? Both? When you're thirsty, what do you drink? What do you eat to start your day? Where does that food and drink come from? How do you offer gratitude for the abundance of this world? What does your life feel like? Do you work on something beyond your home and land? When you leave your home, where do you go and how do you get there? Do you feel free? Do you know how? How do you know? Safe? How are you safe? Healthy? What does healthy mean? Satisfied? How do you feel and know you are satisfied with this world? This world is shaped and reshaped by movements that you participated in and still create change inside of, though in different ways. Are you grateful to have contributed to the shaping of this world? Bring your attention to yourself and say thank you for all you gave and all you received. How have you been changed? What impossible battles have been won? What endless cycles have ended? What impossible battles are still being fought or navigated? What impossible creations are now commonplace? What has been your best mistake? How do you feel about facing the end of your life or beginning of your ancestry? Is there anything else you absolutely must do? Let that fill you up completely, so anyone here in 2050 can feel that absolute commitment in you. It's your day. How do you let in the celebration of others? What does your community do to celebrate? We get together to reflect and think and be brilliant. So here we are. Welcome to the panel.
Papa, why did you write this song?
I wrote it because I wanted to encourage you and young people like you. I wanted for you to embrace your place in this world.
How do you feel about the world right now?
I'm fearful because it's not the world I want for you. It's not the world you deserve. It's daunting sometimes. I'm also hopeful because you show me every day what is possible.
What do you want for the future?
I want us to find the best in ourselves. I want us and in each other to believe. For your sake, I want us to trust a hope you represent. I want you to know that we see you. We need you. This is your moment.
Today's the day. It's all in play. We'll celebrate and watch it take flight. You've set the stage. Now turn the page. Take off the brakes. The sky awaits. Take flight. And we will wish you closer and watch you spread your wings. Waving high our banners, saying you can do anything. So seize the day, make your play. We're lining up the runway, take flight. So go explore, strike out from shore, discover what the sky is for, take flight. And we will wish you closer and watch you spread your wings, waving high our banners, saying you can do anything. You'll do your best, forget the rest. Go chase a dream, find a quest, take flight. And from the ground, we circle round, and marvel at these wings you found. Take flight, and we will wish you closer as you stretch your wings. Look down on this path.
Thank you to Daryl Grant and all the artists involved in the making of this voluntary this morning, and I also want to thank the musicians here on the chancel. This art that we're sharing this morning so beautifully demonstrates the importance of dreaming and building spaces in our communities that encourage dreaming. This is what we will be talking about today, this important spiritual work, setting aside time and space in our lives for imagination, for getting clear on our vision of what the world can be, so that what is possible might emerge. It is about witnessing to possibility, to our wildest dreams with earnestness. And so I want to invite you to keep going with our time travel today, because the reading we shared today that Tom read for us transported me back in time as well as forward. It took me back to 2015 in my first training with my undergraduate university's fossil fuel divestment campaign. We were organizing to urge our small North Carolina public school to take its endowment monies out of the non-transparent and unethical endowment management company that it worked with, and instead to invest in socially responsible investment strategies. The idea is that if large institutions everywhere are actively removing their financial investments in the fossil fuel industry, then we can all move closer to a just energy transition. It is complicated but really powerful work. So come with me to 2015. I promise I'll try to keep the technical financial language to a minimum. So we're here, and I am ready to be an activist, college student, and fight climate change, though I know very little about the stock market in general and the way endowments work in particular. I still have a lot to learn about the science behind climate change and how our efforts might help to create a more sustainable world for future generations. So I signed up for this training a bit intimidated and ready to learn as much as I can and catch up with everyone else who I feel like already knows what's going on. And the training ends up being quite different than I expect. The technical learning will come eventually and over time, but it's not where we start. We start with dreaming. After introductions and housekeeping, we open with this one exercise very similar to our meditation today. We are asked a series of prompts, and we have these big poster papers to draw our responses on. And the questions are like this: what kind of world do we want to live in? Are we actively working towards? What kind of housing is the norm in this world? How do young people get an education? What are the headlines in the news? What about our public infrastructure, our justice system, and so on? And I am still intimidated. This is a surprisingly difficult exercise for me, especially as someone who isn't great at drawing. And it turns out my imagination is quite limited by the constraints I see in the world around me. When it is time to share our responses, I talk about a very straightforward dream of a world where housing powered by clean energy is a human right, and that's about it. And then I feel a mix of awe and a little embarrassment when my peers start speaking with passion about redesigning neighborhoods to prioritize community. They talk about housing stock that fits diverse family structures. They talk about houses being unique, colorful, made of all kinds of interesting building materials, and they talk about moving housing stock away from our current landlord systems. And all the while inside I'm saying, yes, yes, yes. And also, why didn't I think of that? And it was a similar story with the other prompts as well. This feeling of, wow, we're allowed to dream like that? It was a day, honestly, that changed me. Writing a vision together of this world that we dreamed of was a way for our campaign to stay motivated and keep our eyes on the prize. And this helped us when we were faced with financial jargon and complex administrative bureaucracy. It kept us inspired, and it bonded us together as a community when we were tempted by climate despair. And in this exercise, we also learned to communicate that vision. We shared it in creative ways with people who would become our allies and accomplices, such as the Valentine's Day event, where we sent our chancellor cards asking her to break up with the toxic management company. This initial visioning exercise is one of my most vivid memories of my time in the divestment movement, because it was a moment when I learned what a different world might look like and started to be able to glimpse it. It held our community together through long strategy meetings, through diplomacy with university trustees, and through bold and creative direct actions. And it is a deep joy to let y'all know that we won, thanks to the sustained efforts of younger students that my peers and I mentored, and thanks to administrators that we built relationships with. Our university divested in 2019. I firmly believe that it would not have been possible without those early exercises in dreaming. And it also feels worth mentioning that the Sunrise Movement, which you may have heard of, the youth organization behind the bold vision of the Green New Deal, was born from the collective dreaming of folks who had been part of the nationwide student divestment movement. All of this has taught me that groups of people who prioritize dreaming are powerful, and they can change not only the way they see the world, but also the world itself. Are there examples of this in your own life? Of being offered a vision of a way things can be that are different from how they are now, of being captivated by such a vision, of watching it become possible, become reality. This happens in our world through movements like I've described to you, but it also happens on a more personal level when we reach toward dreams for our lives, for our communities, and for our children. And I don't want to diminish how much work needs to be done between dreaming and making dreams real. It's a lot of work. This is not merely a manifestation exercise, but I do want to assert that we must start with a dream, with articulating it clearly and with passion. Research shows time and again that imagination is a powerful tool for making change at all levels. In his book, From What Is to What If, author Rob Hopkins highlights some of these studies about unleashing the power of imagination to create the future we want. He quotes a 1995 study by a Harvard medical researcher who followed two groups of new piano players learning to play a specific sequence of notes. Both groups were asked to sit at the piano and practice for 2 hours per day for 5 days, and one actually played the piano while the other group sat there and imagined playing it for that time. At the end of the study, both groups demonstrated the same ability to play the piano as each other. And possibly even more mind-boggling, a very similar study showed that people imagining exercising a particular finger muscle showed similar increases in strength of that muscle as people who actually exercised it over the same period of time. That's astounding. And I don't know about you, but I have found it so hard to dream in the past couple of years, to be amazed by imagination. Imagining a better tomorrow seems like more of a luxury than an everyday practice. I am sharing this today precisely because we live in a time where dreams can feel fanciful and out of touch with reality. When we are quick to remind each other that rest itself, the prerequisite for imagination, has become a privilege. And sadly, this idea is backed up by science as well. The parts of our brains responsible for imagination literally shrink in the face of sustained stress or trauma. Given our culture's widening economic gaps, the pressures of modern life under oppressive systems, and add climate change and a global pandemic on top, it is no wonder that imagination is in sharp decline and seems unrealistic. And this is precisely when we most need creative problem solving to address the issues in our world. It is when we feel safe and our material needs are covered that we have the emotional energy to play, to experiment and try new things. It is a real tragedy of our times that imagination has become this privilege, and even if even rest is becoming inaccessible, then how are we supposed to dream? So today we are not just talking about this lovely idea of if you can dream it, you can be it, but also I want to make clear that in our efforts to make the world a more just place for all, we also need to be actively making space for everyone to dream. I believe that our Unitarian Universalist living tradition urges us to fight back, to reclaim imagination as necessary, as a human right. I have an elevator speech on Unitarian Universalism that I think hints at this idea, so I want to share it with you. When I come across someone who asks what this faith is, I tell them, in Unitarian Universalism, we believe that there are many paths to truth, so we gather in religious community to explore these paths and to connect with spirit. We hold a diversity of beliefs about God, about what happens when we die, and so on. But we do agree on a set of values about how we want to live in the world, and together, we actively work toward creating a world of wholeness, where all are loved, all are treated as blessings. This is it. This is the dream that we hold together. We call it liberation sometimes, beloved community. Historically, it might have been called the kingdom of heaven on earth. Our UU heritage has held this vision of a world where, as we say, all souls are welcome as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. And to get there, we must create religious communities that allow us to get specific about this dream and to live into it together. Here at First Unitarian, we wrote it down and made it explicit last year when we adopted the 8th principle. Finally, we have a principle to speak directly about beloved community and our accountability to one another on the journey there. But can we get there? Does the moral arc of the universe really bend toward justice? And what are we to do now? How are we to live in this world that feels so broken? In my last year of divinity school, I had the immense privilege of accompanying my friend and colleague, Reverend Alex Jensen, through his master's thesis. And he talked about this idea a lot and really helped me articulate my own theology of beloved community. In his paper, Alex argues that beloved community is something that is always emerging. It is in a process of becoming that we together are building and moving toward. And we can also begin to taste it, to glimpse it in the here and now, These moments that Alex calls glimpse moments, actually inspired by the Starhawk poem from earlier, these can be tender moments with loved ones, swells of power and solidarity and justice movements. They are all the ways we take time to care for one another, to build relationships of accountability. I hope you've experienced these glimpse moments. It is these times when we feel loved and appreciated, and that we get to offer love and appreciation to others. These times when we think, why can't life be like this all the time? I encourage you to seek out these moments wherever you can, to lean in and let them inspire you. And I also hope that you'll bring this energy into our congregational life here. This work is for all of us, not just staff or board members or people who are into social justice. It's really collective. We need all of us to craft a vivid, inspiring vision of a world that can be. In the words of Tony Cade Bambara, it is our job to make revolution irresistible. So I want to close with a modified version of our meditation today. I am going to guide you through some questions, and there is only one rule. You aren't allowed to constrain yourself with current or projected realities. Budget, facilities, existing social norms are not relevant in this exercise. This is not a time to say yes, but. Rather, if you have any experience in improv theater, this is a time for yes and. Are you with me? Okay, so let's take our time machine for a spin yet again, for a relatively short journey this time. We all hop in together, and before we know it, we've already slowed to a halt. We have arrived in the year 2030, only 8 years from where we started. First Unitarian Portland is years into a successful new senior ministry. Our staff, our lay leaders, everyone, we're thriving on a collaborative, innovative, and spiritually deep shared ministry. While we continue to grow and get better at practicing accountability, our congregation feels it has more fully and holistically integrated the work of the eighth principle. We offer a robust hybrid ministry that is both deeply rooted here in Portland and widens our circle every day to include members around the world. So you're here, you are attending social hour on a Sunday morning. How do you know that we have accomplished all this? What do you see? Who is in the room with you? What do you hear? How do you feel? What does our worship look like? Our congregational meetings? What are your relationships like with other members of this community? How does your participation in this community flow into the rest of your life? How is your spirit? How is your heart? I wish sincerely that we could be together in person to share our time travel visions. I hope you can take the time to dream about beloved community out loud with anyone in the room with you in the coming days, or maybe you want to call a friend from church to exchange your visions. This is collective work after all. So in the coming days and weeks, and especially as we get deeper into this ministerial transition, I hope that you will keep taking time to imagine. And please keep taking time to share even your wildest dreams with others. It is through this collective spiritual work that we will journey into tomorrow together. Let us pray. Great, creative, dreaming Spirit, we are grateful for your visions that made all that we know and all that we are possible. Please help us to remember to dream. Please help us to fight for our dreaming. Imagination cannot be a luxury. Instead, let it be the breath that fills our lungs, and let us use our out-breaths to speak boldly our visions, without shame, without the words catching in our throats. May we be comforted and inspired by the dreams of our ancestors. May we live so that our children and all future generations can dream too. And may we glimpse, may we taste, may we feel that vision of beloved community here and now. And may we revel in these glimpse moments. May they fill us up and move us forward. And Spirit of life, we ask that in all of our dreaming, may we dream together. May all this come to be. Amen. Please join now in singing our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Our closing words are from Reverend Michael Schuler. We have reached the end of this time for the gathering of memory and for letting the imagination play with future possibilities. We have enjoyed magic moments and edified each other. Shall it be concluded then? Or will this adventure now commenced continue? Our separate paths converging, meeting, merging in the unending quest for love more perfect, the joyous struggle for meaning more sufficient and life more abundant. This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love. Amen.